Hello, this is Alan again on another of my videos on ECL Enterprise Control Language built-in functions. This time I thought I'd do a series of videos on the roll-up built-in and what it can do for you. What is roll-up? Well, it's a way of deduplicating records, information, but also being able to call a transform while deduplicating, so you can actually gather information from records while the deduplication process is going on. So in my example here, I've got an input data set of where I've got a list of certain people with the same surnames, and I'm basically deduplicating by surname, but also collecting all the forenames for those individuals with that surname here. So let's see what the reference manual says about this. Now there's a couple of variants on the roll-up. This particular video, I'm just going to concentrate on the first two. They're so similar that I'll treat them as one, really. There is a different type of roll-up which I'll do in another video. So let's just cope with this. Let's just concentrate on this field list variant here in this PowerPoint presentation. Right, so the best thing to do is really just walk through it with you, what's going on. So first iteration will takes the first records. Now I've mentioned a point here, it's got to be sorted in the order you want to process the records. Well, that's true for field list ones when you're deduplicating by fields in a record set, but that isn't true for the other variants I'm going to show, which is for conditions. But for variants I'm using in the PowerPoint, you have to have these input records sorted. So these are my first two input records, and the first one gets presented on the left hand side and the second one gets presented on the right hand side. Okay, so do the processing, let's say I'm concatenating four names, and because there's no other hash downs in this list, that's completed that process, and so that is generated as output. Now Baker here on its own, it's unique, so there's nothing to roll up against, so it just gets transferred directly to the output and doesn't actually go through any transform at all. So we now get to Walter. Now this will be the second iteration, even though it's the third, we're processing the third surname. Again, the first of the Walters goes in on the left hand side, and the next one goes on the right hand side. Again, we do exactly the same kind of processing again, but because there's further Walters to process in the input, this can't go to the output yet, so this goes in again, it's fed in as the left hand side of the next iteration, the third iteration, and that next further input record is put in on the right hand side. So in our case, again, I'm just doing more concatenation, and now because there's no further Walters, that can just be moved to the output there, and that's it. So let's have a look at the ECL to achieve said result here. Right, so this is the field list. So here's our data that is exactly as we saw in the PowerPoint with names and surname here. And this is the roll-up. It just takes the input data set. This variant, the transform comes next. I've just called it F, and the list of fields to consider as duplicates are after that. So there's a field list here, not just a single field, so it could be done on multiple fields here. And I'm just saying, look, duplicate records are considered duplicates if the surnames are the same here. And what I'm doing exactly what I did in the PowerPoint presentation, basically taking the left hand side, which is the result of a previous iteration or the first record, and concatenating the next input record names with it with a comma separator there. Okay, and surname is just surname, just copied from either left or right. So let's run this on H4 as it's very small, and just see what we get. We should end up with exactly the same information results that we got from the PowerPoint presentation, and well, hey, we actually do. There you go, deduplicated up. Now I wanted to point out to you that, for example, Baker never got presented to the transform. But where we could demonstrate that is, let's say, put a letter X in front. So anything that goes through a transform is going to have an X in front of it, followed by the concatenation. So let's just submit that as an experiment and see what it produces. Here. All right, well, the X has worked, so we see the Ashdown, the transform's been called once because there's one X there. Notice there's no X at all, so there's no way that Baker could have been processed by the transform at all. So that's just proof that it's just been passed to the output. And XX here indicates that, in fact, there's been 2 iterations because there's been 3 input records with Walter there. So it's just a handy little way of being able to get your ideas straight about what on earth is going on. Right, this next variant is just condition. Here, if you put a condition before the transform rather than after it's here, then it uses this to dictate what is a duplicate record. In this case, I'm saying length of surname, and as it happens, the lengths here for this simple six record data set is going to be the same as the earlier ones. Ashdown, Baker and Walter, they're all distinct lengths of surnames, so we should end up with exactly the same results as we had with the first variant of ROLLUP. But let's just have a look. Yeah, lo and behold, there we go, identical. Now, you can get, with conditions, you can do some very strange things, which I don't recommend, because you could do things like names now. So you could effectively have a condition which is changing as the transform is processed. So that is strange. Goodness knows what happens here. As you can see, names is going to vary, but then the condition is outside the transform and it's using something, I don't know. Anyway, let's just see what this does. Nothing sensible, I suspect. Ah, interesting. Here we go. Yeah, warning. Roll-up condition on active names is also modified in a transform. So if the compiler's trying to tell you that you're being daft, and you are really, so that's not just a warning really. Personally, I think that should be an error really. But anyway, there may be some weird examples where it might actually be necessary, in which case you have to ignore the warning. Anyway, I'm wittering on. As I said, those are two forms of roll-up. There's another form of roll-up which I'll cover separately in another video. I'll see you in that. Cheers, bye.